everyone, this is host speaker's name. Welcome to another deep dive. Get ready to dig in because today we're talking about the future of farming. And you can forget those old-timey images of like red barns and hay bales. We're talking high-tech, AI-driven, completely different agriculture.
It's funny, people think of farming as this ancient thing, right? Been around forever, never going to change. But you're actually like right on the edge of this huge shift. Like just imagine, if you will, a world where tech helps us grow way more food in a way better way, like sustainably, fewer resources. That's the future we're talking about today. That's the goal.
Okay, so let's break this down a little, right? Because we're talking robots out in the fields, drones like flying over crops, checking them out, data, just making the decisions. But what does that even mean? Like for you, for people listening, people who care about like where their food comes from?
And that's always the question, right? We could just geek out about flying tractors and all this crazy stuff. But the real deal is how this actually changes things for everyone. Farmers, people in the grocery store, everybody. And it's not like some, sci-fi thing. This is happening like right now.
So this isn't just like theory. We're not just like, daydreaming here.
Oh, yeah.
This is happening.
This is real.
So this deep dive, to be clear, what are we talking about? This is, we're basing this on an article called Fremtidens Landbrug. And it's basically like a roadmap, like for the next 5, 10, 20, even 50 years of,
Of farming.
Yeah, of farming, exactly.
Yeah.
So not messing around. Like we are talking...
The future.
We're talking about concrete changes. And the article lays it all out, starts with, wait for it,
Okay.
the next 5 years.
It's wild. The immediate future, we're not even talking about like getting rid of farmers and it's all robots. It's like smaller, more efficient machines working like, with people, like a team.
Less Terminator, more like high-tech farmhand.
There you go. That's the one. Imagine that. Tiny little robot, just like planting seeds, making sure each one is like perfect. But it's not just that, right? It's also, while it's doing that, it's gathering info on the soil, like right there, giving you this crazy detailed picture of your fields.
Speaking of data, I was reading this thing. There's a farm, I think it was in Gilland, already doing this. They've got these little robots out there planting. But then they take that data from those sensors in the ground to figure out like the absolute best way to water everything. It's crazy efficient.
And that's just the start. It's not just about the robot itself. It's about that data it's collecting and feeding into the system, right? Sensors in the ground, drones mapping stuff out. It's all connected.
Okay, so like big data's coming to the farm. But what's that actually mean in reality?
Okay, imagine you're a farmer, right? Out there in Stirland, instead of just like guessing when your crops need a drink, you're getting info straight to your phone about like the soil moisture levels, like real time. And that data, it's analyzed by AI, by the way, and it tells you exactly when and where to water. The article mentions one farm doing this cut their water use by like 30%, while also, get this, boosting how much they were growing.
That's huge. Using less, getting more. I mean, that's like the dream, right?
Changes everything.
Sounds like this tech is all about making smarter choices and like really getting the most out of every single thing, every seed, every drop.
That's it. Going from just like gut feeling to information. And that's powerful. And we're just getting started.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, like how different things could be. But this is really just the start, right? Like the article, it keeps going.
Yeah.
Paints a picture of like 10, 20, 50 years down the line.
And that's where it gets really wild. If the next 5 years are like, getting used to this smart tech, the 5 after that, it's like the digital farm is like, it's happening. AI and machine learning aren't just crunching numbers anymore. They're like predicting the future of your farm specifically.
Okay, now that I got to hear more about. Predicting the future of a farm. That sounds, I don't know, amazing and also a little creepy.
A little bit both.
Yeah.
Okay, so picture this. AI system, it's always on, always watching, but like in a good way. Drones over the fields, satellites up above, even like old weather data. It's like a detective, but for your farm, looking for like any little clue that something's off. Could be a pest problem, but like before you even see a bug. Or it could be like, hey, best time to plant based on like the microclimate of your farm. It's going to be Tuesday, 3:17 p.m. Be ready.
So not just like a vague, fortune teller thing, but like actually useful info.
Actionable insights, yeah. And again, not just theory. The article mentions this corn farm, Westjylland, I think. Yeah. They're using this to predict pests, Like actually do something before it's a disaster. Less pesticides, more harvest.
Which, okay, side note, that's a huge part of this whole thing, right? It's not just efficiency. It's like, we're talking about making farming way better for the planet, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Less waste, less chemicals, and that only gets more important as we go. 20 years out, they're saying IPM is like the standard.
Okay, hold on. Gotta break that down. IPM.
Integrated pest management. Fancy way of saying work with nature, not against it.
Yeah.
Instead of just, oh, problem chemicals, it's like, what's the natural solution? Beneficial bugs, smarter crop rotations, even just choosing plants that are tougher to begin with.
So it's like taking that old school knowledge, but like turbocharging it.
Yeah. The article calls it regenerative agriculture, which that's the big idea. Healthier soil, less water use, even like sucking carbon out of the air.
And we're still growing food, right? This isn't like, just go plant a forest.
Oh, tons of food, more food, better food.
Well,
It's about changing how we do it.
from like conquering nature to, I don't know, being cool with it again.
There you go, teamwork. Which, speaking of the future, this article, it goes 50 years out. Now, I know that's a way off,
Yeah, that's getting pretty far out there.
but even just to think about it, the article, it says fully automated farms, robots doing like everything, planting to picking, the whole deal.
Wait, so actual robots, like I'm picturing like sci-fi movie robots out in the field.
That's right. Not even a concept. It's happening. The article talks about this farm, Langeland, I think. Tiny robots managing the whole thing, planting, weeding, harvesting. They're even like learning as they go.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that's impressive and also kind of freaks me out a little. Like what happens to, farmers in this future?
Everyone's asking that. And the article, it gets that this changes things big time for people working the land. But it's not necessarily robots replacing people. It's more like
Okay, so what's the alternative?
the job changes, right? Less like back-breaking labor, more managing the system. You're looking at data, you're making the calls. You still need that knowledge, but you're using it differently, optimizing everything.
So less brawn, more brains.
Exactly. Which that means we got to rethink how we even teach people about farming, right?
So we're talking coding classes next to like learning about soil and stuff.
That's the future.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, keep doing what your grandpa did. It's how do we use all this to make it work better?
I like that. It's exciting, I gotta say. But honest question. This all sounds expensive. Like, can regular farms or farms in, not rich countries, can they even do this?
Super important point. And yeah, the article says straight up cost is a big barrier. But there's some cool ideas. Like, have you heard of farming as a service?
Farming as a service, that's a new one.
Right. So think about it. Instead of having to buy all this crazy tech, you basically subscribe to it. Need a drone for a week. Data analysis on your, I don't know, potato yield. Done.
So instead of buying like the whole tractor, you're just renting it when you need it.
Exactly. And there's already groups doing this. The article mentions this cooperative, Southern Denmark. They all chip in, share the tech, levels the playing field.
That's awesome. So it's not just going to be like mega farms crushing it. Everyone else is out of luck.
Right. And those small farms, they're often way more in touch with like local people doing things sustainably already. Tech can help them do even more.
It's like tech isn't good or bad, it's how we use it. And this sounds like a way more hopeful future.
100%. And that takes us to, I think, the coolest part of the article, city farming, vertical farms, all that.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff I always thought that was like way far off.
It's getting real, especially in places with like tons of people, skyscrapers, but instead of offices, it's just like food growing up the walls.
Which, by the way, less water, less land makes total sense.
Right. The article talks about this place in Copenhagen, old factory. Now it's a vertical farm, booming business.
Okay, that does sound like sci-fi, but in a good way.
And it's not just a gimmick. The article says this could change the game for like food deserts, places where it's hard to get healthy food. Now it's right there.
So tech, not just for profit, but for like solving real problems.
Exactly. And as the planet gets weirder with climate and all that, we got to get creative.
Totally. Although, one thing I'm wondering, with all this amazing tech, what about like the energy to run it all? That's got to be a lot.
Yeah, you got to plug in all those robots somehow, right? And the article, it's big on renewable energy being a huge part of this whole thing.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But like, what does that actually look like? Like solar panels on every barn roof?
That's the idea. Wind farms out in the ocean, powering farms inland. The article even talks about these like super batteries to store energy when the wind's really going.
So they're not just like using clean energy, they're what, like generating it too?
Exactly. Becoming energy independent. And again, not just a theory. There's a whole project, I think it was Western Denmark, wind farm powering a bunch of farms, all with these batteries.
That's pretty cool. It all ties together, right? It's not just about growing more, it's about doing it right.
100%. And it's not just those huge projects either. Battery tech is going to be huge everywhere. Smaller, more powerful batteries, perfect for robots, sensors, all that.
So the farm of the future is like growing your food and your own energy. That's wild. But, we've been talking big picture tech. What about the actual crops? Like, does this change what we grow, how we grow it?
Oh yeah, big time. The article talks about moving past like the problems with how we farm now, like with tech. For example, growing way more variety on the same land.
So instead of those like giant fields of just corn, 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 it's more like diverse.
Exactly. Polyculture farming, they call it. And it's like way better. Healthier soil, less need for chemicals, good for the planet.
And probably more interesting for farmers, right?
Right.
Not just stuck with one thing.
Oh yeah, way more potential. And it's not just planting, it's harvesting too. Imagine a robot, right? But it's got these crazy sensors, can literally see when a tomato is perfect.
So no more like just ripping everything out of the ground. It's like precise.
Exactly. Less waste, better quality.
Ah.
There's a farm, Eastern Jutland, doing this already. Robot picks the perfectly ripe stuff, leaves the rest.
Okay, my mind is officially blown, but real talk, this all sounds pricey. Can, like, regular farms or farms in, poorer parts of the world, can they actually do this?
Big question. And yeah, the article says cost is a huge hurdle. But there's ideas like that farming is a service thing.
Right, where it's like renting the tech.
Exactly. Don't need to buy the whole robot army, just hire them for a bit. Way more accessible.
I don't know, that gives me some hope,
Right.
That it's not just going to be like mega-rich farms controlling everything.
It's about using tech to even things out, give everyone a shot. And that's, I think, the most important takeaway.
100%. This whole deep dive has been, wow, robots, AI, sustainability, so much stuff.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And it's exciting, right? But also got to be smart about it.
Absolutely. Like all this tech, it's powerful. We got to make sure it's used for good.
That's the key. It's not about the tech itself. It's about what we do with it.
Well said. And that, I think, is a great place to leave it. This is like a conversation that's just getting started, right?
Oh, yeah. This is just the beginning. Who knows what the next 50 years will bring?
That's the fun part. So to everyone listening, whether you're like out in the fields every day or just, like to eat, this future, it's going to impact all of us. So thanks for coming along on this deep dive. And until next time, keep digging deeper.